Hello, everyone. Well, it's my turn to thank the organizers for having invited Morocco to take part in this important discussion on the spatial dimension of port spatial planning. We'd like to tell you about a number of port development projects, and in particular development of port infrastructure as part of our national strategy. The interpreters would like to point out that the sound is not very good. There's some interferences, and we're doing the best we can. It's very difficult for us to do everything we have to do at the same time with this quality of sound. So first, I'm going to give you the general overview, then tell you about the National 2030 strategy and the approach that was taken on by the Ministry of Equipment, of Infrastructure, and then I will end with present projects in terms of infrastructure planning and the updating of the 2018-2030 plan, port development plan. So as you can see, Morocco occupies a strategic position and is therefore well placed in terms of maritime traffic. 11.8 billion tons, that's the volume of international trade, 811 TEUs for Morocco, and Morocco is 19th in terms of maritime connectivity. Next slide, please. So in terms of port infrastructure, as I said, Morocco occupies a strategic position between the Atlantic and the Mediterranean, 3,500 kilometers of coastline, 75,000 square kilometers of territorial waters, and an EEZ, which is huge, 43 ports, 14 of which are open to international trade, 22 fishing ports, 7 yachting ports, 76 kilometers of protective construction, 65 kilometers of docks. In terms of signaling, we have 40 lighthouses, 250 beacons, and 1 traffic separation system. In terms of potential capacity of ports, 270 million tons a year, including 117 million at the Tangiers Mediterranean port. In terms of capacity, 10.8 million TEUs and 10.5 million passengers. And you have the overall traffic flows for the different categories in the last part of the slide. Next slide, please. So our national port strategy. Our goal is to have a forward-looking strategy for the harmonious development of port infrastructure. We also want to involve all stakeholders in the development of this plan. Our vision is to have ports act as catalysts for the national economy and its competitiveness that drive the regional development of our country and really place Morocco as an essential hub in Mediterranean shipping traffic. The goals of the plan, of course, is to optimize the competitiveness of our logistics chains. We want to have good logistics in our commercial ports. We want to optimize resources with the 35,000 kilometers of coastline. We have a lot of potential namely in terms of fisheries potential. We want to secure strategic procurement and also give the port system the ability to adapt to regional and international change and also allow the port system to capture future geostrategic opportunities. And in the next slides, I will be detailing the methodology we applied to developing our strategy and how we believe we'll be able to achieve the goals in the strategy. So I listened attentively to the previous speakers and their projects, and I'm going to really focus on marine spatial planning, but from a strategic perspective and not from the perspective of developing one port or one project. So I will give a broader view on how we build our national port plan. There are three real pillars, and it's the same approach that we applied to predict traffic flows in ports. So first, we took the macroeconomic perspective to predict non-specialized traffic flows. Then we assessed mass specialized traffic flows. Each player has their own strategy. So the fishery strategy, the agriculture strategy, the phosphate strategy, all of these strategies do involve some traffic that will transit through ports, and we want to assess the demand for port traffic when building our own port development strategy. And then a third pillar, which is also important, is the analysis of international opportunities. I mentioned Morocco's strategic position gives us a real asset. We can capture more shipping traffic. Thanks to Tangiers, we're highly connected to the rest of the world. We also another port which is presently being built. And so analyzing international opportunities is part of the thinking that has gone into our port infrastructure development plan. On this slide, in the next slide, I'll be delving into the detail of each one of the pillars. So we talked about non-specialized traffic flows, so containerized traffic, small volume traffic flows, and miscellaneous traffic. So we correlated the traffic and its elasticity based on explanatory variables such as GDP or population. So we worked with our central planning office on three assumptions: a low, intermediate, and high assumptions. So for each of these, we make projections in the growth of non-specialized traffic and draw conclusions from that or derive solutions. The second type of traffic flow is specialized traffic flow. These are huge challenges when planning new ports. So, for example, energy traffic flows with the import-export of phosphate and other strategic traffic flows such as fruits, vegetables, grains, citrus fruit. So for each sector, fisheries, agriculture, and so on, have their own strategies and predict their own traffic flows. So we have drinking water and so on. The different loaders that load phosphate, coal, hydrocarbons, mining products, etc., have their own predictions. And so in our port development strategy, we looked at that level of granularity when predicting future port traffic. It was a very difficult, complex exercise. Several dimensions need to be brought together for us to analyze the needs in terms of port capacity and then make that available to what we call loaders. Third pillar, international opportunities. This really focuses on containers, number of containers that can be handled in the Tangiers Med port. That's one analysis that was drawn. So we made one analysis for the Mediterranean. The number of containers handled around the world is on the increase, and 20% of them go through the Mediterranean, and we have captured part of that traffic thanks to the Tangiers port. There are other international opportunities for hydrocarbons, for example. We handle about 20% or 20% of the hydrocarbon that is shipped every year goes through the Mediterranean. So I'm really looking at the main titles of this study, but for each chapter, there has been detailed analysis to identify the proportion of the market that we can capture to know exactly how Morocco could take advantage of these traffic flows. There's also cruise shipping, and I listened to the French presentation that talked also about pleasure boating, pleasure yachting. Morocco could also attract about 1 million cruise passengers, about 1 million cruise passengers. We also have a port conversion project. Some of these ports could really be suitable for cruise ships. And so you see the results, the breakdown on different traffic flows. I mentioned our three assumptions, H1, H2, H3. Here you see the different traffic predictions based on these assumptions. So we have predictions based on average annual growth rate, variable elasticity, sectoral strategy, modifications, and it gave us this picture between now and 2030. So the result of the analysis of traffic flows in ports, we also looked at the catchment area around each port, production area, consumption area, etc. These analyses show that Morocco really can be broken down into 6 areas. The coastline can be broken down into 6 clusters, also depending on the resources for each region. So we established special plans. We have a strategy. We want our strategy to be inclusive. It looks at the opportunities in each region. We also take into account that each region needs to harness its own advantages to stay competitive. With the development of ports in our plan that spans to 2030, we're really giving ports an excellent chance. So when we set up this strategy, we were handling 92 million tons, and by 2030, we think we will be able, across all our ports, to handle about 300 million tons. So there are 3 areas of intervention, really. You can stay on this slide. This is the detail of the previous slide, but the plan really focuses on 3 areas: building new ports, building major extensions, and then integrating ports in their urban environment. I'm not going to go into the details, but first we look at traffic flows. We look at the need for ports and derive the necessary extensions or new ports that are needed. And in a first stage, we were able to reallocate traffic from one port to another, for example, to achieve our goals, but also to incorporate the urban dimension of these ports. I think this is the case for a number of countries. Ports have now become completely subsumed inside the urban fabric. And so we have a number of large-scale projects, Tangier, Casablanca. They are connected with the city, and there are also new port projects. Some are presently under construction, others are awaiting construction. So our strategy will cost $6 billion. Of course, we tried to identify different sources of funding. As I said earlier, I think that very rare are the countries that have enough money for their own projects. So for the Atlantic, we have a long coastline. There's a lot of potential, but it is an open sea, and that means that ports need to be protected. That means building quite expensive infrastructure, hence the price tag on this strategy. But all of these aspects are integrated in the budget. We are looking at other sources of funding via other agencies, via public partnership or public-private partnership. Now, since we're talking about marine spatial planning and setting up, I think it's important also to talk about monitoring evaluation tools. This is something I wanted to share with you. Talk about the KPIs for the strategy. We have 4 indicators. These are very sensitive indicators. It's like a wheel of Denning that we can use to fine-tune our strategy as soon as the traffic lights change color, as it were. And this is part of this is one of the key elements in our plan to develop traffic. This is a strategic sector, and we have an indicator that so the yellow indicator, impact of sectoral strategies, this will help us fine-tune our action. Then we have indicators of external opportunities. We will be monitoring these via strategic intelligence, development of nearshoring, development of seaways, indicators that will allow us to readjust or even ramp up should an external opportunity arise as the strategy is being applied. Then indicators that give us information on the saturation of ports, which means that infrastructure needs to be adapted or that infrastructure is not well suited. And we have an indicator on our land planning policy. Earlier, I talked about clusters along the coastline regions or subregions resulting from a logistical breakdown. That is all part of our land planning policy. We have embarked on an ambitious regionalization plan. We will be drawing up regional development plans. We hope that with this logistical structure, the cost of shipping will be brought down, and shipping times also will be brought down. We need to map routes in order to derive the most streamlined routes. And we are also we also want to perform an audit of our sector-based strategies and our territorial development policies. Next, please. Message from Aya. 5 more minutes, please. Well, this is the last part of my presentation. So where do we stand today? Today, We're looking at a number of assumptions for our port strategy, and we thought we would look at interim situation. Recorded traffic was lower than our lowest assumption, and that means that we need to revisit port traffic flows. And I would like to add something. When you see the arrows going down, it's an average, and depending on this or that sector, the numbers are actually going up or down, but that's the overall average. So in terms of marine planning, I felt it was important to establish evaluation tools, midterm evaluation terms. So we're looking at a strategy, and it's a longer term strategy. We wanted to be able to adjust the strategy as we went along. So we have the tools to do that. So it is possible to re-quantify the port traffic and maybe redesign our strategy. So our project is based on finalizing the progress report on the 2030 SMP. That's done. On updating our assumptions for port traffic, that is done. Also updating port demand forecasts. And that's just details on the terms of reference of our emissions. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much.